turn into I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Don't you forget, pressing the button can also be enjoyable for you.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornbluth, Chris Bergen, and Pat Daniel. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil, Chris, and Pat with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Sports Talk on a Monday night. Hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to a big week here on Sports Talk. Looking forward to talking with you tonight. Lots of stuff going on, especially in the recruiting world, because people are making decisions. In the basketball world, the deadline for getting into the portal, John, to be eligible for this season in football is coming on May 1st. So more and more are jumping in, making that decision. Going to cover it all in our recruiting report coming up in about 40 minutes or so here on Sports Talk. In the meantime, over the weekend, Clemson gets a nice series win at home, knocking off Florida State. Ugly game yesterday, but a beautiful series win. Gamecocks get swept at Auburn, and Wofford continues to be the best team in the state by the numbers. College of Charleston having a very nice year. Coastal Carolina had a sweeping weekend as well. We got NBA playoffs continuing. Celtics try to eliminate the Nets tonight. Got the broom out in Brooklyn.
Please do that.
I'll be happy to.
I am so tired of hearing about the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, I am too.
Their whole mess. Go ahead and take them out of their misery.
Glad
Finish
to do
this
it.
off tonight, please.
Happy to do it. Happy to do
Thank
it.
you.
I'm really starting to believe. Of course, you might not know this. I am a Celtics fan.
Never heard that.
I am really.
You like
loving
the Yankees too, right?
Yes, I like the Yankees too. And we're off to a good start. We're tied for the lead in our division. This might be the year of the corn. I thought last year was going to be the year of the corn. This might be because, the C's have a chance. I think the Yankees have a chance. Of course, Packers will have a chance. And
Canadians are done, though. So not a full sweep.
Yep. But speaking of hockey, you saw where Pauline Gretzky and Dustin Johnson tied the knot over the weekend.
I did not see that.
Outstanding
for them.
How would you like to come home and say, "Hey, Dad," to Wayne Gretzky? Huh? That'd be pretty cool to have Wayne Gretzky as your father. More cool to have Pauline Gretzky as your wife.
No doubt.
But pretty cool having Wayne Gretzky as your father-in-law. What a race at Talladega! Talladega almost never fails to deliver, and it delivered yesterday. A lot of drama, intrigue, and you watch that race like Daytona, Chris, and it's like none other because you're on the edge of your seat and you're holding your breath the entire race because catastrophe looms at every turn. How those guys held it together over the last how many green flag laps do they have at the end until they crashed at the line?
Yeah.
They had a nice little run going there. And I'll tell you what, when Kurt Busch moved into the middle,
big mistake on his part.
Big mistake.
No doubt.
Broke up everything, and they went pretty amazingly how they went from running side by side to running nose to tail and got into the long train there until they tried to break it up at the end. And Chastain held on. What a finish. Now we're just a couple of races away from Darlington. It's Dover this weekend, and then Darlington on Mother's Day weekend. So that's coming at us like a train. So our phone number, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number. Give us a call. Mr. Pat will put you on the air. He's very friendly. He's very nice. He'll talk to you more off the air than we'll talk to you on the air. So you can say hello to Pat, and then you can get on board with us. And it looks like, Chris, South Carolina's baseball season is now DOA. They're done. No postseason for the Gamecocks this year. Just can't see it happening. They're not going to win the SEC tournament. They're not going to win enough games to get an at-large spot. Clemson is on life support because they have enough games left and they're playing better, and their schedule is such that they've got some winnable games coming up that they can add to their resume. But right now, if today were the day of the ACC baseball tournament, Clemson would be on the outside.
You're right. You're right. And that's what Monty Lee told us last week. That we've got to win series. With our RPI is okay. Our overall record is okay. But the problem is we've got to win ACC series. And going into this past weekend against Florida State, they were 4-10 in the league. That was not going to get it done. And as you pointed out, they would not have been in the ACC tournament if it started this past weekend. They went a couple over the weekend, and they needed that. And yesterday, good grief. I've done Dixie Youth baseball games in my career. I'm not sure I've seen combined 10 errors in a Dixie Youth game, much less what we saw yesterday. But nonetheless, you win the game, and that's the bottom line. Clemson found a way to win, and they are slowly starting to move back up the ACC standings. But you talk about South Carolina. Go back. When is the last time the Gamecocks finished below 500 overall?
I looked that up not too long ago. The first time they dipped under 500 this season, it was the first time they had been under 500 at that stage of the season, going back a lot of years. I'd have to go back and look and see when their last overall losing season was.
Before Tanner?
Wait a minute now.
I'm thinking in mid-90s.
Clemson had a losing season.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. And Clemson has never missed the ACC baseball tournament. There have been 47 ACC baseball tournaments. Only Clemson and Virginia have played in every one.
I saw that stat you tweeted out earlier today, and I thought that was fascinating. By the way, Tiger fans, you can thank us, the Sports Talk Kiss, not the kiss of death, but the Sports Talk Kiss. Who did we talk about last week, Phil?
Who?
When we had Monty Lee on. We talked about Max Wagner, and he was the stud over the weekend. He knocked so many balls out of the ballpark. I thought he was in batting practice. And Max Wagner has been the difference for that baseball team here the past couple of weeks. And he and Caden Grice starting to swing the bat a little bit better. They're not going to commit 5 errors every game they play. They're a much better defensive team, and Monty said that yesterday. This is a team I think is starting to get hot at the right time. South Carolina on the flip side, and I wanted to get into this a week or so ago, and we just haven't had time. And, of course, I was off. So I didn't want this to look like, all right, hindsight is 20/20. Of course you're right. But I've got to bring this up now because they're sitting at 19-20, and they're 6-12 in the SEC. And I just don't get what Mark Kingston and that coaching staff is doing with its pitching staff. They've now played 10 series going all the way back to the beginning of the season, most of them SEC series, obviously. But they played 10 weekend series, and they are 3-7 in the opening game of the series, whether it be a Thursday or a Friday. And for whatever reason, Will Sanders has not been involved since the Clemson series. Will Sanders has won 2 of those 3 games, Phil, that they've won over the weekend, whether it be a Thursday or a Friday night. But since that terrific pitching effort he threw against Clemson, he lost that game. And it seems to me that the coaching staff at South Carolina looked at that and thought, you know what? As good as Will Sanders has been, when we throw him against another team's ace, we don't have the bullpen that can win the game for us if Will gets into trouble. So let's move him around and maybe sacrifice the Friday game, if you will, for potentially winning a Saturday or Sunday game. And now yesterday you throw him in a Sunday game and he pitches, quite frankly, pretty well through 5 innings, gives up 2 runs, but they get no offense.
Right.
And so they lose again and they get swept. But I don't understand why in the world you don't take your best pitcher. And there's no question, whatever analytics you want to use, Will Sanders is by far the best pitcher South Carolina has, whether it be a starter or a reliever. I don't understand why he's not starting on Fridays. And now you're going to run into another weekend where it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Well, there's no way they're going to run him Thursday because he pitched yesterday.
No.
I mean, I wish Mark Kingston would explain. Maybe the next time we get him on the program, we can ask him this, because I just don't understand what they're doing with their pitching staff. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're sacrificing that first game, and they got out of order here earlier in the year because of the Thursday, Friday schedule. Go back and look at the rotations. I think that's when he got moved because he had pitched and they wanted to give him the proper rest or the regular rest. And so they did not start him on that first game.
It was the Texas series. Remember, Phil, because after the Clemson game, he pitched so well. but lost that game. And then they get swept by Clemson. Then they go into the next weekend. And I don't know if he was planning to pitch the Friday game against Texas. I can't remember back, but they had the rain out. So they play on Saturday. They lose Saturday. They don't throw him because they know the next day they're going to get that 7-inning game in game 1 and then the doubleheader on Sunday. So he pitches on Sunday and they win that game because he can virtually pitch that entire game. And ever since that, go back to March 13th, ever since that, their rotation has been out of sync. And you've got to find a way to get Will Sanders back to your Friday rotation because there's no question. I don't care what they tell you. He is their best pitcher. And there's no question. And how they're handling their pitching staff just makes zero sense. So you move now Noah Hall into your Saturday starter, and now he's your Friday starter, and you get some guys out of the bullpen, and they're your Friday and Saturday starters, and you're moving Matthew Becker from starter. It's almost like they're just flipping coins in the dugout to decide who they want to pitch. And I just don't get it. It just makes zero sense to me.
Yeah. Not having your best starting on the first game of a series, it puts you behind the 8 ball. You're trying to come from behind now almost every series, and you really put the pressure on your team. If you win that middle game, you're trying to win the series. You got to win that Sunday game.
Right.
A lot of pressure put on you, and they don't have a good enough team to overcome that. It's a team that just on a regular basis has not been able to put the good pitching together with the good hitting. It seems like when they get one, they don't get the other. And it's like yesterday, got great pitching. They pitched well enough. You hold a team in that park to 2 runs, but then you got held to no runs in that park. So, it's a park that's got the green monster in left. It's, you get a lot of runs in there if you got an offense, but they really, really struggled. They had their chances. I mean, it was a series where in every game, late innings, they were there and they couldn't finish the job. And then, of course, yesterday they couldn't score any runs. All right, so we got all that. Oh, and in basketball, of course, it's been a big day for South Carolina, big couple of days as they picked up 2 players out of the transfer portal. Hayden Brown is transferring from the Citadel. And then this afternoon, in what has to be only considered a very pleasant surprise for the Gamecocks, Michi Johnson, the point guard at Ohio State, announced he's coming to South Carolina. Well, we'll see how big time it is. I mean, he's got a big reputation. Now, he's a guy that averaged 4 points a game at Ohio State. Excuse me. 4 points a game at Ohio State. He went there. He reclassified, graduated early, and joined the team for the second half of the 2020 season. He played 17 games, and he played all of this past season. But his career numbers are not impressive. Again, averaging his career averages were 2.2 points and just under 1 rebound and 1 assist per game. This past season, he averaged about 4 points per game. Now, I know coming out of high school, he had the big reputation and could have gone, practically anywhere in the country. He did have a torn ACL in his sophomore season of high school ball he had to overcome. I'm not saying he can't come to South Carolina and be a really good player, but I go by what I see, and what I see has been, he hasn't lived up to the expectations or the labels that were placed on him that he was supposed to be a great player coming out of high school. Maybe there were some other circumstances that kept his numbers down. We'll see. We'll see in person what kind of player he is. But at least reputation-wise, the Gamecocks have picked up a player there with a big national reputation coming out of high school. We'll see how it transfers. And then there is Clemson and South Carolina in the final 2 for Brevin Galloway, who's out of Seneca, who spent 4 years at the College of Charleston, 1 year at Boston College. And he's a really good outside shooter. And he was hurt at the College of Charleston a couple of different times, and he got an extra year of eligibility. That's why he's still able to play. And he tweeted today it's down to South Carolina and Clemson for him, with no indication that when he's going to announce. And now Wednesday, we've got G.G. Jackson finally officially set to announce what he's going to do at a press conference at his school. Yeah, the school put that out today. They're going to announce their new coach. I beg your pardon?
What time is the presser
3
for
o'clock.
G.G.?
3 o'clock,
Right.
yeah. So they're going to announce their new coach who's coming over from AC Flora, and then they're going to have the presser for him. And, most of the national recruiting people have him headed to North Carolina now, which would be a shame that just a change in coaches at South Carolina would lead you to do that if you were all set to go to South Carolina. Of course, you do fall in love with the coach, and you do fall in love with the coach, and maybe you don't fall in love with the next guy. You know, did they give the next guy really a chance to really show what he's all about and give him a chance to fall in love with him? You know, did they do that? Did they not? Can't answer that question. If he ends up not going to South Carolina, obviously the change there with Frank Martin would be the primary reason for that. So he'll be announcing at 3:00 on Wednesday. So we got all that going on in the basketball recruiting world, plus a lot in football. Tell you all about it in our recruiting report brought to you by Seawells, coming up in about a half hour. After the break, we will get to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number here on Sports Talk. Since 2002, more than $999 million in lottery proceeds have been used to support K-12 programs in South Carolina. Learn more about the lottery's impact at sceducationlottery.com/education wins. Playing for fun is a win for education. To your calls in a moment.
The lady in black doesn't age. She just gets tougher. And NASCAR Throwback Weekend is when she likes to remind everyone just how they got here. Loud cars and louder colors, business up front and parties in the back. Over 70 years of history held together with one famous black stripe. Too tough to tame? I guess you'll have to find out. Darlington Throwback Weekend, May 6th through the 8th. Get your tickets at darlingtonraceway.com.
Founders Federal Credit Union knows your life is busy and your money is important. We are proud to offer local personalized services and convenient online services like Founders Online and the Founders app. You'll love being with us as much as we love serving you. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com or one of our 37 convenient locations to see if you qualify for membership with Founders. Relax, win with Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I love sports, and I've helped people for over 30 years. Contact me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com when the insurance company won't pay your claim or you have complicated issues. Some other business causes your business to lose money, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. When you lose a relative and find out you got cut out of a will or don't get what was promised. When you have serious injury, like from a wreck or mishap or on the job, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
Well, one thing I hope Comrade Musk does now that he owns Twitter is put in an edit button. I mean, that's the one thing, he can be concerned about fairness and everybody having a chance to say something. Just put in an edit button, and I think that you will make friends with everybody for life. That would be huge, would it not? What is so hard about putting in an edit button?
I've never understood why Twitter did not have an edit button, because once you tweet something out, even if your intentions are good and you mistype a fact or a word or whatever the case may be, you can't fix it. You have to delete it and go back. And I think an edit button would be infinitely important to Twitter. Did you call him Comrade Musk? I like that.
Yeah, isn't he Russian? Isn't he Russian?
Elon, I don't think so.
I thought he was Russian. What is he?
South African.
That's close enough. And the reason I bring this up is because I had tweeted earlier Wofford's rankings, and I put the wrong ranking in by Baseball America. So Wofford this week is ranked 22nd by Baseball America, and 24th by the coaches, and 25th by D1 Baseball.
Committee, listen to me now. Regardless of what they do in the Southern Conference tournament, that is an NCAA caliber team. Don't leave them out the way you left out the basketball team. They are worthy of getting into the tournament regardless of what they do in the postseason.
Oh, I agree.
They need to get in. They need to get in.
And they get to go to Clemson on Wednesday.
I would not want to be Monty Lee, because if I'm Wofford, I can throw my ace in that game, because that's a big, big win for them if they pull that off, because that's another RPI sort of victory on the road at Clemson. Well, I don't have to hold my ace for Southern Conference play.
Hold on to your seat. The RPI this week, Wofford is number 10.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10.
That's an NCAA team. They need to be in the field regardless of what they do in the postseason.
Clemson 35. USC 67. Coastal, which has gotten hot, 70. College of Charleston, which is leading their league, 79. Upstate 131, Presbyterian 181, the Citadel 220, Winthrop 233, and Charleston Southern 261. We got more notes coming up. Founders Federal Notebook around the corner. But let's get to some phone calls down to Hilton Head. God, what would we do to have a studio in Hilton Head? Jamie, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Listen, I want to talk a little baseball. I mean, this is not typical of the state of South Carolina for either team. South Carolina's always been known as a baseball state. Thank goodness for Wofford this year. But I want to tell you something, and I'm going to brag on somebody here a minute. If there is a coaching change at South Carolina, and I'm not saying there will be or there won't be, but you guys need to take a look at David Kilton, okay, from LaGrange College. He is an up-and-coming star in this business. He is going to be a phenomenal Division I baseball coach one day.
Mm-hmm.
He played baseball at the highest level. He played in the major leagues. He got released from Major League Baseball, went back to school, got his degree. He started a program at LaGrange College from scratch, and they are consistently in their conference tournament and their Division World Series. This man needs to be given a look. Do you guys know about him?
No, and let me say this. I don't believe there should be any change for South Carolina baseball, regardless of what happens this season. I don't think there should be any change. I think that, Mark Kingston's done a well enough job. I think they've recruited well enough. They've had a lot of injuries with their pitching staff that you cannot overlook this year. I mean, give them the healthy arms that they thought they would have. It might be an entirely different story. I don't think you make a change if you're Ray Tanner here. I think you ride it out, and, whatever happens the rest of the way, you give them a chance to get it right next season. Then if it goes poorly once again, you have that conversation. Then I don't think you look at that this year. I really don't.
Well, but see, the problem there, Phil, is you were just saying that y'all don't understand what he's doing with his pitchers. So he's not handling his pitchers the right way.
That's our look at it. That's the outsider's look. I mean, maybe inside, and they certainly know a heck of a lot more about their pitching staff, strengths and weaknesses than we do. But I don't disagree with what Bergie is saying from the standpoint of on paper and looking at it from where we sit. Why can't you get your best pitcher up front for these weekend series to give you a fighting chance to get off to a good start? And then, what's the difference if you go 1-2 in a series, if you win the first game on Friday or you lose the last game on Sunday? At least give yourself a better chance to get off on a positive step, have some confidence going into those next two games. If you got your best guy going on Friday night or Thursday night, as the case may be, it gives you that shot. And I'm like you. I'm a little bit confused about why they are saving their ace for the last game.
Well, and there's so much into analytics in college sports, and especially in baseball. I'm not sure there's a sport that relies on the computer and things, in terms of the shift and where guys hit the baseball and how much exit velocity and spin rate and all that kind of stuff, that more so than baseball. And to me, it's a no-brainer. Will Sanders should start the first game of every weekend series. Again, the facts prove themselves out. They've won 3 first, Thursday or Friday games, and Will's won 2 of them. Now, again, that was in non-conference play, but nonetheless, ever since the Clemson series, it was almost like they took a step back and thought, gosh, as well as Will Sanders pitched, we still lost the game. We've got to find a way to take Will and move him into Saturday or Sunday, pitch him against second or third line pitchers so we can win that game and hope somewhere along the line on Friday or Saturday, somebody like Noah Hall or somebody out of the bullpen steps up and helps us out to win the game. But Phil, I think the one difference, and I'm like you, I'm never going to advocate. I think it's unfair and it's irresponsible to advocate from our standpoint for someone to lose their job, because I wouldn't want somebody in any other position to stand up and say, well, Phil Kornblut needs to go because he's a terrible radio host.
Rest assured, that's been done.
But
rest
my point
assured.
being, but my point being, baseball at South Carolina is a different animal. This is a program that is held in the highest regard.
Yep.
And if the Gamecocks go through a losing season, it would be the first, as Pat pointed out, since 1996 that they've had a losing season, regardless of injuries. You've got to take a strong, hard look, especially if you're the head coach who established that program to the level that it is right now in Ray Tanner in the athletics department. You've got to take a really hard look at the direction of the program moving forward.
Well, yeah, no question about it. This would be a step back. And after being a tournament team last year, don't forget they were in the tournament last year, a number 2 seed, and they got a break and had a chance to host and couldn't get it done, but they were there in the tournament. We'll continue. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. We won't be cooling down much overnight. Clouds move in, and we'll have a low of 63. Tomorrow, we remain warm with a high of 86, but the clouds turn into thunderstorms in the afternoon. Clear again for Wednesday and the rest of the work week, but cooler with high temps into the upper 70s into the weekend. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. When you're a military veteran with over 40,000 organizations trying to help you, it can be hard to find the right information. That's why AARP brings together valuable resources to help you navigate your options. AARP.org/veterans. With the free veteran employment and fraud prevention resources, caregiving tools, and access to discounts, AARP, on a mission to support veterans. Visit AARP.org/veterans today.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a retired firefighter, and I have been retired for about 6 years. I had a lot of damage done to my body over the course of my employment, and I'm coming up on my first year anniversary of taking Balance of Nature. And I'm agile and energetic, and the doctors and the physical therapists are amazed. They're like, you don't even need us. I don't think I would be doing half as well as I'm doing if I hadn't had extra nutrition from Balance of Nature to help my body heal itself.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature right now. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com for more information or to place your order. Shipping is always free. And don't forget to get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer by using discount code BALANCE.
If you're like me, you're sick and tired of seeing these old TV stars, game show hosts, these athletes telling you how to save money on your Medicare and on your health insurance. These national toll-free numbers are overwhelming us. It's not that people don't need the service. They need good local customer service, not big box toll-free numbers. See, I work directly with Tim Hanberry right here at Medicare Blueprint in the Midlands. When it comes to my family, I want the best family plan. I'm not even on Medicare, but my mom is. So here's what I do want. Someone local to serve as my advisor on the plans and choices that I have, and someone to help mom with her Medicare. I want someone to help me pick the right plan, save me as much money as possible by knowing all the rules of the game. Medicare Blueprint starts the process with you. They will see it through. They answer all your questions. They call you back. It's the same folks helping you start to finish. Tim and his team are independent. They fight for you, not the insurance company. Online, it's MedicareBlueprint.com or call them 708-7398.
Everyone knows that here at The Point, we are all about supporting local businesses. We are all about local, local, local. You cannot get more local than my friend Greg McCoy and his business, Simplified Mortgage Solutions. Fran Halloran here. If you're buying a home or you're looking to refinance your current home, you owe it to yourself to call Greg. He is the real deal. You can expect Greg to treat you like you are his only client. You can expect Greg to scour the market to find you the best rate available. You can expect Greg to charge you a fair price for his work and his service. Why would you deal with some national company headquartered in who knows where when you can do business with Greg? Need further persuasion? Okay, I didn't even mention the good Greg does in our community by supporting local charities like Blue Star Mothers and Camp Chemo. Come on, you need to call Greg. Online at simplifiedmortgagesc.com, or you can call Greg at 803-722-6044. That's 722-6044.
You know what? I get asked every now and then, Kev, when you say my guy, do you really have a my guy at Palmetto Exterminators? Well, I really do. Ron Byers is my guy. Do you realize I've been a customer of Palmetto Exterminators for 20 years this summer? That's over the course of 3 homes, longer than my kids have been around. I'm loyal to Palmetto Exterminators for several reasons. First, they do a phenomenal job with pest control for a very fair price. It's just not a concern around my home. They take care of everything from regular visits to termite inspection, mosquito care. This is a company that's been around for more than 60 years serving the Midlands. When they come around, they're clean, they're courteous, and they're on time. Look, it's not just me. When it comes to things like those pesky mosquitoes, Palmetto Exterminators voted best of Columbia in Columbia Metropolitan for their mosquito control. I could have told you that before anyone even voted. What else can you possibly need from your pest control company? If you're looking for someone to help you, look no further than my guy, Ron Byers, Palmetto Exterminators. Online, it's palmettoexterminators.net, or call them 254-5833, 254-5833.
All right, back on Sports Talk. Let's give you the Founders Federal notebook for tonight. Remember, Founders Federal, right now, you can get a mortgage note as low as 3.587%. Only at Founders Federal all across the state. South Carolina got some intriguing news notes to share with you tonight. First of all, our new poll question of the week, kind of like this one. Thought it was kind of interesting, and we'll talk about more in the NIL world coming up. So across the country, booster-driven NIL organizations are being created to influence recruiting and pay players for the program each supports. Do you believe Clemson and South Carolina have big money donors who will make them nationally competitive in NIL? And, you know, it's going to take $1 million plus to move the needle with the top dogs. I'm talking about the top dogs, if you want to be one of the top dogs. So we've had 171 votes today, and 42.7% say, yes, sir, both do. 31% say neither do. 15.8% Clemson does, USC doesn't. 10.5% USC does, Clemson doesn't. What do you think? Do you think that, because, you know, I'm reading stories over the weekend like Ohio State missed out on a basketball player who went to Miami with an $800,000 NIL deal, and the fact that Ohio State didn't get him a car, and apparently his NIL deal at Miami gets him a car. And of course, this flies right in the face of what the rules say, but they're doing it anyway. They're just flaunting it. It's
Sure.
just being flaunted. That's what I'm talking about. Does South Carolina or Clemson have people who will step up and give $1 million in an NIL deal to a player to make them the program special?
It's a fascinating question, and I'm glad you pointed it out that way, because I think this is a legitimate NIL discussion in our state. Because let's assume for a moment Clemson has a $1 million booster that wants to donate to the athletics department. All right, do they give $1 million to DJ Uyunglele, or do they give $1 million to Ipte? Because sooner or later, that pie is going to get really, really small in terms of donating to your booster club, or are you going to donate directly to NIL so you can help in terms of drawing in top flight recruiters or recruits rather.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that either one of those schools has that kind of booster club or members of the Gamecock Club or IPTE that can afford to do both. Certainly it's going to come down to a one or the other. And how many in our states have that kind of revenue that they can just throw at an athlete, hoping that they'll join their respective programs? But
This is where, and you're right, and this is where I see South Carolina in particular being slaughtered.
The state or the university?
The university.
Okay.
Because at least Clemson has, and we're talking football, at least Clemson has tradition to fall back on. They've got 3 national championships, and they've got 2 recently. And they continue to recruit at a high level without any big news of NIL involvement. It might be happening behind the scenes. We're not hearing about it. Nobody's come out and said, I'm going to Clemson on $1 million NIL, except for Uyunglele. I don't know how much Dr. Pepper paid him for his commercial. I guess he got some good money out of that. We could probably look that up, Pat. Maybe you know, Pat. But anyway, South Carolina doesn't have that tradition. They don't have that history. They don't have that flow where players just want to go to South Carolina because they've been winning at a very high level. So they've got to step up and entice some nationally renowned big-time players that aren't South Carolina players, South Carolinians. I was just thinking about this the other day when I had these thoughts in my mind. When you look at the history of USC football, at almost every position, the greatest player in the history of the program at that position was a South Carolina native. You could make that argument with a few exceptions. For example, the greatest defensive end in history, Jadeveon Clowney at South Carolina, out of South Point. Greatest safety, Rick Sanford out of Northwestern. Greatest corner, Stephon Gilmore out of South Point. On the offensive
greatest
side,
quarterback and running backs both from the state of Georgia.
I would agree. I was going to say Connor Shaw at quarterback, and George Rogers.
Yep.
Some might say Marcus Lattimore, but I mean, you can't. Yeah, George Rogers is the greatest running back in history of South Carolina.
He won a Heisman. That's the end of the discussion right there.
And your greatest receiver, probably Sterling Sharp, who's also a Georgia native. Okay, I'm not saying not across the board, but I think maybe the majority. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen. I'd have to look a little more closely at some of the players to pick out which one you might consider to be the greatest. Same thing at linebacker. Greatest linebacker in USC football history. I mean, the all-time leading tackler was a South Carolina native, Mike Dura, I think it is. Mike Dura. He's a South Carolina guy, I believe. I think he's a South Carolina guy. So my point is about all of this, South Carolina has depended largely on in-state recruiting to fuel their best teams. And to get the mega out-of-state guy. Now, I'm talking about a player thought of in the top 10 nationally at his position. It's going to cost a lot of money because South Carolina just can't lure that type of player on its own right now, I don't think. And who's going to step up and pay? Who's going to step up and pay? That's the question. And apparently, there's plenty of people at other schools willing to step up and pay for their schools.
Well, I think Hank, our caller, and also Pat brought up a terrific point late last week when we were talking about the NIL, and it's in regards to social media and the effect that social media has and the amount of followers. And Hank brought up the point about the women's basketball team and Sia Cook, who's got so many internet followers that she actually is much more attractive than some of the other people who might get, we would think, and I use us, Phil, you and I, we would think would be much more attractive in terms of marketing availability. But the difference is the amount of people who follow them on social media. And I don't know that you necessarily have to tap into pulling into a guy from Irmo High School or a guy from Wilson High School over here in Florence or Myrtle Beach or Northwestern up in Rock Hill, as long as they have the opportunities available to them on social media, regardless of where they're from. They may be able to tap into that kind of NIL availability, regardless of where they grew up.
Going back on my thoughts of all-time greats, I mean, you could make the argument at South Carolina as far as wide receiver goes. Yeah, Sterling Sharp. I mean, what about Alshon Jeffrey?
And I was thinking Eric Norwood would be another guy, but he's a Georgia native too.
Yeah, but you could pencil in Alshon Jeffrey, South Carolina kid, as the greatest receiver in Gamecock history. What you got, Pat, real quick?
Just the whole time you guys were having that conversation Friday night, and when Chris was just mentioning that, I struggled to not beat my head against the wall. I was glad Hank brought that back up, but I've mentioned the NIL, and that's the real power. I'm sorry, social media being the real power behind NIL for a year now, since we first started saying this. And I'm going to bring back up an article I've mentioned at least a dozen times on this show before. It has a list of the top 20 NCAA athletes. This was written last July, so this is by those numbers, based on social media following, and 6 of the top 10 were females because of their social media following. And Shaquille O'Neal's oldest son, or I think he's his oldest son, the one who now just transferred away from LSU, he's transferred multiple times now. He was getting on average $10,819.51 per post. And that was across TikTok, Instagram, and so forth. Suni Lee, who remember was a gold medalist in the Olympics, who's at Auburn, she gets roughly $6,400 per post. Olivia Dunn, another gymnast, over $5,000 per post. And then you just go down and down the list. Spencer Rattler coming in at number 9 on this list. He was getting $1,500 per post. Again, this is per these numbers last summer. My point is, yes, you are going to have schools like Miami who have been getting, I mean, isn't that what they got in trouble for so long ago? Was their boosters paying these athletes? It's just now they're doing it out in the open. But I don't think that's really going to affect South Carolina and Clemson as much as you guys. Now, I'll admit I could be wrong, but it really doesn't matter where you go to school. SUNY Lee goes to Auburn. Auburn, Alabama is not exactly a huge city. It's not a big market. It's not like they're in LA or Miami or Chicago.
But
or
if
something.
everybody's happy making their money off of the social media, and if somebody's able to attract that kind of an NIL, then you know they've got a big social media following.
Right.
Why the need for the NIL and for people on the outside to give money and buy the players that way? Just let them live off their earnings off their social media platforms.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't think it'll affect Carolina or Clemson. It doesn't matter.
But it must,
even if
because
you're at Nebraska or something.
It's a bonus, right?
But you're going to make the money either way.
But you're going to make money, or you're going to make huge money.
You can make huge money either way. And that's maybe where I'm not explaining this well enough. You could be in a tiny little town, Clemson, South Carolina. Trevor Lawrence, if he still has 1 million followers, that's not going to change whether he's in Clemson, South Carolina, or he's playing at Southern Cal out in LA. He's still going to have the same amount of followers. So if he has sponsorships and they're paying him via his social media, it does not matter in the slightest where he is in the United States. He's going to make the exact amount of money. But where you can make more is if you're in a market like LA, maybe you have larger companies in that area than you would have in Clemson, South Carolina. I mean, I don't think Milliken is going to pay the same as, I don't know, Virgin Records or some random huge company out in LA. I don't even know if Virgin Records is in LA. But my point is, you can make extra money there, but I don't think it is going to offset what you can make playing at Clemson or at South Carolina. That's where I really don't think, at the end of the day, it's going to make a whole hill of beans of difference.
Okay, let's go to Andy in Columbia, and then we'll get to recruiting coming up here on Sports Talk. Phone number 888-898-2525. Andy, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Good evening, Pat, Chris, and Corn. I hope y'all had a wonderful weekend there.
We did indeed.
Terrific.
You know, I'm kind of disappointed. I don't think I like the NIL anymore. If a kid can't go to college and get a car anymore, that used to be the thing, right? Every kid got a car. Now you're telling me they're not able to get cars anymore?
No, I'm saying Ohio State did not include a car in his
that's what I'm
NIL
saying.
offer, and Miami did.
It didn't matter what in the days past. You got a car. Everybody had a car. You had a car. Everybody had a car. So, you know, if that's just how it's going, maybe we need to reconsider. But, you know, you said, why don't they do just a social media thing? That's where kind of this all started from. Was it UCF, the kicker, who had such a large social media following that the money he was collecting, the NCAA either told him he had to shut down his social media or no longer be scholarship, and I think he walked away from his scholarship.
Yeah. They were so heavy-handed on all of this that it's come back to bite them in the rear in a major way, and now they don't know what to do. They're just sitting back and watching this thing burn down. I mean, truly, it's burning down around them. Now, what will rise out of the ashes might be something that is going to be fine for a lot of people. It's going to be just fine for a lot of people, and it's not going to be fine for a lot of people. So we'll see what the final product is. I'm sure that at some point the NCAA is going to try and go back in and flex what little muscle it's got left in its pinky fingers, but all it's got left. We're going to try and do something to incorporate some law here and see if they can get a little bit back on top of things. But exactly how much of influence they can have anymore remains to be seen. And even if they're going to be able to hold all the schools together under the umbrella of the NCAA remains to be seen.
Okay, baseball comment. 10 years ago, this team was playing for their third national championship.
They fall quickly.
Let's put it this way. Every year you hear from Kingston's arms. This isn't the only year that there's been arm problems.
Yeah, but this year's been really bad.
And then you talk about, you know, analytics. I believe in the second game this week, they had whoever the second baseman, Wimmer, playing kind of like behind the bag, but the Auburn players kept hitting it right to where he should have been standing if they didn't play analytics like 3 or 4 times in a row. So he's not making adjustments in games. And, you know, it's to me, it's just ridiculous. I can't stand the guy myself, Maybe that's one of the problems. But if Pat can do this, I don't remember how many years it's been, but I think it's been 10 or more years since Auburn has swept an SEC series.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
they announced that after their win the other night. It's been a long time since they swept an SEC series.
Yeah. I'm just curious, when's the last time South Carolina swept one? Okay.
We'll
and
look
you
it
know
up.
what?
We'll look it up.
And you know what? People want to burn, took Frank Martin to the thing. This is something that we won 2 national championships in and came in runner-up in 12 years. And now the program's like this. How did the Tennessee program get built so fast? They didn't have I know they were a good program going back maybe 20 years, but, they don't have, those young kids that are playing now don't remember Tennessee, but I guarantee you they remember South Carolina.
Well, remember Tennessee. All right, thank you. Tennessee blew out their very successful coach they had for a long time, Delmonico, and they went into the woods in college baseball for an extended period, one coach after another, and got nothing done. And then the guy they've most recently hired, obviously, has gotten it done in a very big way. And now they're the hottest team in the country. It's just all come together for them. Going back on my comment about greatest Gamecocks, and I was thinking about the greatest defensive players. So in their history, in their record book is where I will look. And defensively, their all-time leading tackle, Clinton's J.D. Fuller.
Yep.
405 tackles. So, and I think J.D. was a defensive lineman. And then third is Mike Dura, who I'm pretty sure is a South Carolinian from up in the upstate, I'm pretty sure. And I think he was a linebacker. So you could argue those two. The greatest kicker, Parker White, if you go by the records, all-time leading scorer. He's a Wando kid, another South Carolina guy. Again, just my point. You could argue James Seawright maybe was the greatest linebacker in their history. I don't know. I mean, and he's a South Carolina guy. My feeling was that in most of their positions, in most of their history, their greatest player has been raised right here in South Carolina, which the Gamecocks have benefited from. And we got to hit the brakes. I want to get recruiting in. We'll pick up on the Clemson side of the argument after the break. But when you think about Clemson, I mean, most of the great Clemson players of all time are not from South Carolina. When you think about it, quarterback, running back, receiver, the greatest ones, I would say, all came from out of state. Which, I mean, what does it mean? Does it mean anything? I mean, Clemson, I think, has a greater drawing power in recruiting out of state than South Carolina does. Greater brand in football. Back in a moment.
Sports fans, are you in it to win it? Join South Carolina's fight against COVID-19 by getting your vaccine today. Vaccines are safe and will help stabilize school operations by bringing us back together safely. The CDC recommends everyone 5 years and older get vaccinated. Visit scdhec.gov/VaxLocator or call 866-365-8110 to find a vaccination station near you.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. futurescholar.com.
There was just a lack of Black women, business owners, entrepreneurs, creatives. Growing up, I didn't see that. I figured out that I wanted to be a photographer for women of color. I found my niche and I'm sticking to it.
Each year, the South Carolina Education Lottery raises millions of dollars for scholarships and grants that help students prepare for their dream career. Just like Kristen, your passion is our purpose.
All right, Pat, you got the answer to Andy's question for him about the sweep?
Sorry, hold on. Only so many hands. Get this music down. Yes, I have that answer for you, Andy. And it was actually just last season, 2021 season. They had 2 sweeps in the SEC. Florida first, and they were they were ranked in the top 7 at the time. This looks like in one ranking they were number 7, one ranking they were number 4. But that was here in Columbia. And then later in the season, they also swept Kentucky. So they had 2 SEC series sweeps last season.
Okay. To the recruiting report we go now, brought to you by our good friends at Seawells. Don't forget the daily luncheon buffet up and running this week at Seawells every day, 11 till 2. Outstanding delivery of the buffet every day at Seawells. Only $13, still very economically priced during these days of high prices and inflation. That's an inflation-fighting price right there, if you ask me. You got the menu in front of you?
I sure do, Corn. And this week, they're hitting us with roast beef twice.
Oh,
that
fantastic.
Was today. But then starting to tomorrow, Tuesday, April the 26th, sliced turkey with cornbread dressing, southern fried chicken, and grilled hamburger steaks with onions and gravy. That's calling my name. And then, of course, all the fixins, salad, and dessert.
Superb. Hey, our good buddy Rudy Jones, Palmetto Baseball. If you want to keep up with the baseball around the state, Rudy Jones, longtime sports writer in the upstate, he sends in a note that Dura was from Broome. I thought so. Thought he was an upstate guy. A great player at South Carolina. Thank you, Rudy. So to recruiting, 6'2" point guard Michi Johnson. It's got to be one of the best names in college basketball. Michi. So he went to Ohio State in 2020. A lot of fanfare in 2 years there. Really did not meet the national expectations that you would think. But now he'll get a chance to show what he can do at South Carolina, announcing a transfer to the Gamecocks today. Made his official last week, took officials to Pitt, DePaul, and LSU as well. LSU just yesterday. In 43 games and 2 seasons in Columbus, career averages of 2.2 points, just under a rebound, and just under 1 assist per game. Actually reclassified in the 20 class, graduated early, joined the Buckeyes for the second half of the 20 season, and played 17 games, suffered a torn ACL during his sophomore season of high school, worked his way back to become a top-flight recruit at point guard. Third transfer, Paris has taken from the Portal John, following 6'5" Hayden Brown and 6'5" Troy Boynton. As things stand now, the Gamecocks have 9 on their roster, leaving them 4 more spots to fill. Wherever 6'2" Brevin Galloway plays college basketball next season, he'll be home. The former Seneca High standout revealed this morning he's choosing between USC and Clemson for his final stop of his college journey that included 4 seasons at Charleston and last season at Boston College. He played only 4 games in the 21 season and 7 games in the 2017 season. And he reported on Twitter he's been granted an extra year of eligibility and thus will have the opportunity to finish out his career where it started, on native soil. He has exactly 100 college games under his belt, and he's averaged 9 points, 2 rebounds in his career. He is known as a deep 3 shooter and made 37% of his threes with the Cougars. That figure dropped off last season to 26%. He's a career 39% shooter overall, 33% from 3, 63% from the line. But I tell you what, I was at the game when BC played at Clemson this past season, and he came off the bench and hit 5 3-pointers. He was on fire. He led the Eagles to that win at Clemson, had 18 points in that victory, and then scored 11 against the Tigers when they went up to BC. No indication from him when he plans to announce. Now, we do know that 6'10" G.G. Jackson of Ridgeview will announce on Wednesday about 3 o'clock at his school. Got a press conference deal going on. He's been considering USC, North Carolina, Duke, Auburn, and Georgetown for his college options, as well as the G League. Got to think he's going to announce something about a college situation and not the G League, since he's not going to reclassify and come out early. Saturday, 6'8" Julian Phillips of Blythewood and Sunrise Christian Academy in Wichita made an unofficial visit to USC to meet Lamont Paris and the staff for the first time. Former LSU commitment, one of the top prospects in the country, still uncommitted in the 22 class. He is at Auburn today and tomorrow on an official. Southern Cal, Louisville, Kansas State, Florida State, LSU, Baylor, some other programs in pursuit. And he's also looking at pro options with Overtime Elite and the G League's Ignite. Clemson target, 6'5" Wichita State transfer Dexter Dennis tweeted out he plans to name a top 5 soon. Then he deleted that tweet. He's also visited Indiana. Clemson offered 6'11" Bowden Koepka of Victoria, Minnesota. He also has Minnesota, Iowa, Iowa State, Wake Forest, Xavier, and Loyola of Chicago offers. We got more recruiting coming up. Stay tuned through the break. We'll get to it. Then back to more of your phone calls. Be right back.
By the way, before we do what's supposed to happen here, thank you for pushing the button. I thank you. Programming thanks you. America thanks you.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Twitter on Monday reached an agreement to sell itself to Elon Musk for approximately $44 billion, leaving one of the world's richest men in control of one of the most influential social media platforms.
The price per share agreed to in the deal is higher than the roughly $48 that the company was trading at before Musk first announced his stake, but significantly lower than the $70 shares were trading at last year. Musk said that he views the acquisition of Twitter as a way to protect free speech, declaring during a conference early this month that the offer was not a way to sort of make money. Musk first offered to buy all outstanding shares of the company at $54.20 a share on April 14th. Bernie Bennett reporting.
Prosecutors from the International Criminal Court are to join a multinational investigation team that will look into atrocities committed during the Ukraine war.
The ICC's prosecutor, Karim Khan, signed an agreement to participate in the effort organized by Ukraine, Lithuania, and Poland. The European Union's judicial agency, Eurojust, says involving ICC prosecutors in the investigation will enable rapid and real-time coordination and cooperation with the investigation team countries. Khan said last month he was opening an investigation in Ukraine and has sent investigators there and visited crime scenes himself. I'm Karen Chamas.
Grand Rapids, Michigan police have identified Christopher Schur as the officer who killed Patrick Loyola 3 weeks ago. Loyola was a black man, a native of Congo, who was fatally shot in the back of the head after a struggle with the officer. Grand Rapids Chief Eric Winstrom had declined to name the officer, but changed course on Monday. He said he's doing it in the interest of transparency and to reduce speculation. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 238 points, the Nasdaq up by 165. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For a free quote, call 800-523-3771. That's 800-523-3771. 800-523-3771. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Things could get a little testy when Joe Biden makes his first trip as president to Israel later this year. The latest from the media lines, Michael Friedson.
President Joe Biden will visit Israel in coming months, according to the White House. Word of the pending trip was announced in Jerusalem and Washington on Sunday, following a telephone conversation between the president and Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. The Israeli leader used the opportunity to reiterate his disbelief that President Biden would allow Iran's brutal Revolutionary Guard to be removed from the American list of terrorist organizations. While the Biden administration is reportedly prepared to give in to that Iranian demand in order to close the nuclear agreement with Tehran, Bennett reminded the U.S. president that the Revolutionary Guard is actually the largest terrorist group in the world. I'm Michael Friedson, Town Hall News, Jerusalem.
News and analysis at themedialine.org and townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. We won't be cooling down much overnight. Clouds move in and we'll have a low of 63. Tomorrow, we remain warm with a high of 86, but the clouds turn into thunderstorms in the afternoon. Clear again for Wednesday and the rest of the work week, but cooler with high temps into the upper 70s into the weekend. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather. WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, and fireplaces. Spring Sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Come on, hit it. Do it. You know you want to.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil, Chris, and Pat with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, we're back on Sports Talk Media Network here on this Monday night. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Patrick Daniel. 888-898-2525 is the phone number. And John Kosas from the Fireflies will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Talk Firefly baseball, a little Carolina League baseball as well. Let me wrap up the recruiting report, and then we'll get back to your phone calls, get back to more of your questions. So I was in the midst of basketball. Former Citadel guard Jason Roach, not related to John, is headed to Richmond. College of Charleston landed NAIA standout Jalon Scott of Bethel College. Now to football. Safety Dakari Nelson named the top 6. Clemson, Kentucky, Oregon, Penn State, Tennessee, Auburn. Meantime, Clemson missed out on safety Bryce Thornton, Alpharetta, Georgia. He named the top 5: Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Miami, Florida. Georgia offensive line coach Stacy Sorrells was at Oceanside Collegiate today for offensive tackle Monroe Freeling. Freeling coming off a visit to Notre Dame for the spring game. He has June officials set with the Irish and Clemson, expecting Clemson coaches to visit soon. Linebacker Jaden Robinson has set an official to USC for June 24th. Linebacker Pup Howard has set an official to USC for June 24th. USC made the top 11 with defensive tackle Connor Knight, Trussville, Alabama. The others are Kentucky, Arkansas, Jackson State, Maryland, FAMU, Miami, South Florida, Missouri, Florida State, Western Kentucky. USC offered offensive tackle Zay Alexander. They call him Tiny, 6'6", 326.
Of course they do.
It's one hunk of a man. From Tupelo, Mississippi. Utah, Texas, Memphis, Georgia, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Florida have also offered. USC also offered his teammate, 2026 defensive end Jarraylen McCoy, 2026. That would put him in the 9th grade?
Rising 9th grader? Yeah.
He is 6'7", 240.
Good grief.
2024 receiver Braylon Burnside of Starkville, Mississippi, offered by USC. He also has Ole Miss, Florida State, Oregon, and Mississippi State. USC Clemson target. Defensive tackle Jordan Hall was at Auburn Friday and was offered. Clemson USC target Tony Rojas was at Penn State Saturday for the spring game. USC target receiver Malik Benson, Hutchinson Junior College, plans to name a top 5 on May the 7th. 2024 quarterback Jaden Davis, USC Clemson target, offered by Duke. 2024 receiver Mazio Bennett of Greenville, offered by West Virginia. He was there Saturday for the spring game. Also recent offers from East Carolina and USF. 2024 Midland Valley running back Travion Dunbar. Let's make that Trayvon Dunbar, offered by Arkansas and Ole Miss. 2025 quarterback Gavin Owens of Wren, offered by Louisville. Athlete Tyree Prunes of C.E. Murray, committed to Newberry. He played in the Touchstone Cooperative's Energy Bowl back in December. Tyree Prunes of C.E. Murray. There you go. With the recruiting report for tonight, we recommend that you follow along on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and our Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting.
Funny story about Jaden Davis. I saw your tweet earlier in the day, and I thought, well, good grief, South Carolina and Clemson have no shot at him. Then I looked back and realized it was a football recruit, not a basketball recruit. And I thought, okay, we've got a shot now.
Oh, yeah. Remember, he was at Catawba Ridge in Fort Mill. And then he moved to Charlotte, and now he's at Providence Day.
I just thought a basketball recruit in Duke that we had no shot here in the state. But,
Yeah.
I feel much better about the prospects here in terms of football.
So what is your best guess on G.G. Jackson?
North Carolina.
Pat?
Personally, I wouldn't mind a little drama here. And I don't know if you guys want me bringing up what he retweeted in regard to UMass just a little while. Or actually, he retweeted this yesterday, but Frank Martin has not given up on G.G. Jackson. And G.G. Jackson
nor should he
retweeted from UMass fan saying, Sunday morning, come to UMass tweet. Coaching makes all the difference. Look at, I'm going to mispronounce this, but look at Ime Udoka and the Celtics versus Nash in the Nets. A lot of talent on the Nets and a lot on the Celtics. The coaching is the difference. Frank is the guy for you. He is your Ime. Go UMass. G.G. retweeted that. How angry would South Carolina fans be if G.G. Jackson ends up at UMass?
I think Frank Martin has turned up the wick on his Twitter engine since he went to UMass.
No doubt. There's no question. He's re-energized. And it's almost like he's taking this firing at South Carolina personally.
Well, he should.
Exactly.
I've taken my firings personally. Every time I've been fired, I've taken it personally.
Get my point. I mean, and I'm looking back at his career. He's never been fired, right? I mean,
not before this.
Yeah.
He was only a head coach once before, and that was at Kansas State. He left on his own volition.
But I think he's taking this personally, and you're right. I've seen some of the stuff, and it's so much fun. Frank Martin engaged on Twitter is a fun Frank Martin because his personality comes out even more so on social media because he understands. And evidently, UMass has given him a pretty long leash, so he can say pretty much whatever he wants to on his own personal accounts. And I think you're right, Phil. He's turned up that wick considerably. It's gone from red hot to white hot on social media. But you're right. If he were to get a commitment from G.G. Jackson, what a steal that would be. But I don't see how South Carolina and Lamont Paris coming in late is going to be able to maintain the momentum that Frank Martin had here in South Carolina, especially with what North Carolina's got coming back. The Tar Heels have virtually everybody. Four of their 5 starters from the national championship game are returning.
Yeah.
And they are already the preseason favorites to win the national championship. Exactly.
They'll be gone.
And so he's going to have a spot to play. As he would at South Carolina, but boy, just
tell you, I was watching some video of the kid over the weekend at an AAU event at Indianapolis, and Lamont Paris was there watching him, and so was Hubert Davis. They were being represented there too. Try to draw anything from that, but gosh, he's really good.
He's amazing.
He is. Yeah, he's really smooth and athletic. Can play outside, tough inside. Got a nice fall away jumper. Yeah, he's definitely a difference maker wherever he lands. Well, he'd be a difference maker at South Carolina. He'll be just another piece at North Carolina, which maybe is he of the mindset that I want to be the man? Everybody get on my shoulders and I'll carry you, or does he want to be the guy that's like, I just want to go be a piece and kind of live in the shadow of the tradition and history of a place like North Carolina, but not be the guy that has to carry the load? Because I know there's, 8 other McDonald's All-Americans there with me.
Well, the criticism that he would get at South Carolina and Columbia would pale in comparison to what he would get at North Carolina, being as high profile recruit as he is if he did not come in and perform well. I think there's a lot greater room for him to grow at USC than there would ever be at UNC. But I just said, especially considering what they're about to put on the floor next year. And again, he won't play with those guys, but North Carolina is going to be the favorite to win the title next year. And you want to continue to follow in that tradition. It's awfully hard to turn. It's what I've said for years with regards to Frank Martin and Brad Brownell and whomever else you put in those roles. It's not just trying to develop a program at USC or at Clemson. You've got to compete. It's probably the most difficult 2 jobs in all of college basketball because you're not competing against one another. Like, say, Auburn and Alabama are in football. You're competing with the guys across the border who have tremendous tradition, and that's never going away.
Actually, we have the new odds out today from BetOnline for the NCAA championship for next year. This was based on the players now who are coming back versus those who are leaving for the NBA. So Kentucky now is listed as the 8-1 favorite. Arkansas and North Carolina are 10-1. Houston 12-1. Duke is 14-1. Baylor, Kansas, UCLA. Make that Baylor, Kansas are 16-1. UCLA is 18-1, and Arizona and Gonzaga are 20-1 to win it all next year. All right, back to the phones we go. We thank you for your patience. 888-898-2525 is the number. And we go to Hank in Columbia. Next up, Hank, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hello, Corn. How's it going?
I am doing phenomenal. Phenominal. Phenomenal.
Close.
Close.
No, I nailed it.
Yeah.
I nailed it. Did I not?
No, you didn't.
There's
but
no
it's
I
close.
No.
There's no I in team, Phil.
That's right.
Come on.
I put the I in there because you asked how I am. So I am phenomenal.
Yeah. Phenom is an E. but
It's phenomenal.
yeah, Corn, yeah, for real. But Corn, I think I agree with, first of all, on the G.D. Jackson thing, I think that whenever he comes out with his announcement, it will finally put to rest all of he was committed before somebody left, which I don't think happened. And I think that y'all will have a chance to ask, but I'm pretty sure that did not happen. But the thing with this NIL deal is I don't really think it's going to change areas for South Carolina or Clemson, because I think South Carolina, Clemson, I think with the NIL, it's not so much of you outbidding somebody, it's whether you embrace the NIL or you don't embrace it. You said a couple of weeks ago, and I agree with it, players are still going to go to schools where they like the scheme fits them, they like the coach, they like the area. I think if you come off the way, let's say when Dabble came off, when this thing first came out for, let's say, for a Clemson brand, where you're just not going to embrace it at all or make the precautions to have it, then it's going to cost you in recruiting. And I remember years ago, every time a top 10 recruiting football came out, when they would cut their list, Clemson was always on it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've noticed a number of the stuff that you post, a lot of times when some of these guys that are Clemson's first picks now, when they cut their list, Clemson's not on it. And I don't think it's because Clemson's not doing a good job. I think it's, you look at the other schools, and even the Saban, they embraced the NIL. I mean, he speaks about it, but then Saban was also the guy at the beginning of last year that said that Bryce Young had already made $1 million in NIL. And nobody believes he dropped that little nugget just as an, oh, by the way.
Yeah. That was a message that, hey, you can come here and get your money. We can show you the money.
Oh, we lost Hank.
Oh, Hank, where'd you go?
No.
He just disappeared. All right, got to hit a break. And thank you, Hank. But you're right. I've thought that as we've gone through the recruiting process here, that I've seen Clemson left off the list of some players that I thought they would be on. Now, look, I don't know what's happening in their recruiting office. They might be making some internal decisions. Okay, like we're not going to go after this guy. You know, we're gonna push in another direction, and the player gets that message and leaves him off the list. But perhaps what you're saying and what you're hinting at there, Hank, is exactly what's going on. And some players are going where the money is, where the big NIL donors are stepping up, and the social media availability is strong as well. Be right back with more.
Parents ask, what's the best way to save for college? I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus, and my answer is always open a Future Scholar 529 college savings account. It's easy. You can get started online with any amount. It's flexible to adapt to your child's college dreams. And you can deduct 100% of your contributions from the South Carolina state tax return. So what are you waiting for? Go to futurescholar.com and see why it's the smart, easy way to save for college. Futurescholar.com.
The lady in black doesn't age. She just gets tougher. And NASCAR Throwback Weekend is when she likes to remind everyone just how they got here. Loud cars and louder colors, business up front and parties in the back. Over 70 years of history held together with one famous black stripe. Too tough to tame? I guess you'll have to find out. Darlington Throwback Weekend, May 6th through the 8th. Get your tickets at darlingtonraceway.com.
Life, it has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's little things like hitting every red light or dropping your cell phone. Maybe it's the bills, rent, or pressure at work. But when it comes to the South Carolina Education Lottery, you should never feel like playing will solve everything. The lottery is a game. It's played for fun. So set a dollar amount. Expect not to win and make sure responsibilities, family, friends, and work come first. Visit playresponsiblysc.com.
Back we are, Sports Talk, here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Wake Forest has won the ACC Men's Golf Championship. Birdie on the third playoff hole. They defeat, let's see here. They defeated Georgia Tech. No, doggone it. Who did they beat? But Wake Forest, that was a 3-2 victory. Golf Championship. They just 19th breaking with championship. Wake Forest also won the golf championship. Well, who'd they beat? I'm looking for a loser here in this story. Maybe I got to scroll
that'd be
down
in the
here.
first paragraph.
Oh, they did beat Georgia Tech.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they did beat Georgia Tech. With a birdie on the third playoff hole, Wake Forest, Alan Fitzpatrick lifted the Demon Deacons to a 3-2 victory. ACC Men's Golf ACC Championship 19 for Wake Forest, breaking a tie with Georgia Tech. Yeah, in the opening paragraph, it does not say who they beat. Okay. I am not a moron. M-O-R-O-N.
By the way, Phil, real quick, to sort of put some salve on the big discussion we had last week, the Big Game Boomer on Twitter has released its top 20 best and worst spring game atmospheres. The Gamecocks were third. Tigers were 12th. So
now, who is Big Game Boomer? I mean, why?
I have no idea.
I mean,
I have no idea.
Are we going to start citing everything? I mean, let's have some credit. Does he have credibility? Is that a credible source on Twitter? I mean,
no, it's on Twitter. So yes, no credibility whatsoever. But it has 35,000 followers. So for whatever that's worth. But they ranked the top 20 best and worst spring game atmospheres, and the Gamecocks, considering all the stuff we dealt with last week with the attendance, and evidently it was so off base at 20,000. The Gamecocks had the third best spring game atmosphere, and the Tigers, who had over 30,000 at theirs, had what I say, the 12th or 13th best. So take that for what it's worth.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I do know they had a great atmosphere at South Carolina with all the fanfare and everything around it. And, Clemson, I'll say this. They had a miserable day. Remember, it was cold.
Oh, no question. And it snowed in the upstate, right?
Yeah, it was miserable.
Day,
It was cold. I don't know. They did tailgating and stuff, but I mean, they didn't have. Did they do their Tiger Walk? I don't know. I don't care. But I mean, South Carolina went all out to be all in. They went all out to be all in.
Well done.
For their
That's
big,
well done.
You like that, huh? They went all out to be all in their celebratory status on that Saturday with a bunch of sporting events. They had a 5K run, they had a baseball game. I'm sure they had Dawn Staley doing something because she's in the middle of everything. That's good at South Carolina. So my point is they really exerted a lot of effort. Yet, official attendance-wise, they were 15,000 behind Clemson. So go figure.
Yep.
Figger. Go figure.
I just wanted to put
I got
that
to
out
quit
there.
spelling before I continue showing my ignorance. All right.
By the way, here's an interesting part. Worst spring game atmosphere, period. Number one worst. What do you think?
In the country?
In the country.
Duke.
No. Duke's not even on this list.
Is this an SEC only thing or a national thing?
No. This is evidently nationally.
Because I know Duke announced like 3,000 at their spring game.
Alabama.
Really?
Yes.
Who had the guts to put Alabama in the worst
That's
category?
all Saban needed, right? That's all Saban needed, right? To go out and criticize his fan base again.
He's probably an Alabama guy knowing that he had to give something to fire up Saban. So
Southern California, with ESPN doing everything they could to pump them up, they had the second worst spring game atmosphere.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Bulldog Burt in Saluda. Man, they had an awful atmosphere. I was watching some of that Georgia spring game. I don't think Georgia will ever win another national championship. They've gotten so spoiled, so big-headed. But Bulldog Burt, we know it's officially the offseason in college football because another Georgia player got arrested over the weekend. So welcome to the offseason. We know it's finally here.
Well, he's out of jail and ready to play. I mean, he's ready to get back on. It was just a misdemeanor. I mean, you can't fault him. Well, he got fined for a seatbelt or something. That's all that happened.
Well, I mean, does he not realize wearing a seatbelt, is important and
he
preserves
got
life?
educated. Him and George Pickens. George Pickens was his passenger, by the way.
Was he wearing a seatbelt?
Yes, he was wearing his. He was a model student.
Wait a minute. Model student in Georgia football. That doesn't go together.
But I love your poll question tonight, especially since Dabo's been whining about the transfer portal and the NIL, because now he's got to play in a fair field instead of giving them $100 handshakes and letting the church pay for everybody's car up there.
Are you buying into that myth? Are you buying into that seriously?
Well, it's over now. I mean, everybody can do it, and that's the problem with it.
Well, here's the problem. You know what? I thought about this too over the weekend. People say, what's the difference? And you're right. Now it's legal. Before it was under the table, whatever. But at least before, when it was illegal and under the table, people might have thought twice about doing it because they realized that they could get their school in trouble, themselves embarrassed, and all that kind of stuff if they were violating the rules. And thus they would hesitate to do something like that, and you had some controls. You had whatever you had to say about the NCAA, their enforcement division and all that. You had some kind of control over things. Now you got nothing. You got no control, and people can spend as much as they want for whatever reason they want to have, and throw anything at a player from, a car to a refrigerator, whatever you need, let me know. We'll get it for you. And it's all legal. It's all well and good. And if that's the kind of atmosphere you want around college athletics now here moving forward, I mean, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a complete free for all with a lot of kids, families with their hands out. I'm not saying they're all going to be that way, but as well as I do, there will be a lot with their hands out looking for that best deal as they try to make that decision.
Yeah, you have to be careful with it. But it is regulated by the IRS. That's the next thing that's going to happen. A misguided young person is going to fall in that trap and not pay their taxes and get them for tax evasion. That's what you're going to hear next. And then somebody's going to have to step in and regulate it on that side. That's where it's going to come from. Because as well as I do, when you give a young person a lot of money like that, unless they've got some responsible adults behind the scenes sort of doing their financial management, that can get in trouble real quick with Social Security.
Could see that happening.
Yes. But anyway, I'm enjoying the way things are shaping up this year so far for the Dogs. And I tell you what, looks like we're going to have another good year on the east side. Now, I don't know about winning it all, but
I agree with you. In all seriousness, I watched a little bit of your spring game, and they look loaded once again. They look loaded. Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that Stetson Bennett is a guy that's gonna lead Georgia to a potential second national championship. I mean, he's a good player.
You wouldn't have,
not a great player.
You wouldn't believe he'd have led them to the first national either. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was shocked that he eventually took over the job from Daniels and forced him to hit the transfer portal job. Shocked. What you got, Pat?
Well, and I just sent you the article as well, so you guys, Chris and Phil, can both follow along. This article actually came out about an hour before the show tonight. In a move to provide more transparency with regard to the transfer portal, the NCAA released statistics and information for 2020 and 2021 shows only 54% of all FBS players who entered the portal enrolled at a new school. Only 54% of all athletes who have then entered into the transfer portal are now playing. They have enrolled and are playing at a new school.
Are you saying the others went back to their old school or lost their spots?
A mixture of both. I just didn't want to put too much math here and confuse people without being able to follow along. But if you go to ESPN, this is a very interesting article. It has lots of detail showing how many of these players that enter the portal do not actually go on anywhere else. It looks like they do just kind of lose their spot. One more number here, though, that I think is important. In 2020, there were 587 undergrad students who entered the portal. That's across all NCAA. 2021, 950. And the expectation is that will continue to rise. Just a thought.
And the number of scholarships aren't going up right now, you know? I mean, they have not added to the number you can have on a squad. Back in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
And here's tonight's forecast. We won't be cooling down much overnight. Clouds move in, and we'll have a low of 63. Tomorrow, we remain warm with a high of 86, but the clouds turn into thunderstorms in the afternoon. Clear again for Wednesday and the rest of the work week, but cooler with high temps into the upper 70s into the weekend. I'm Brian Leonard with your On Point local weather.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Sawyer, an entrepreneur and caregiver. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Up to 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. This message brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of SC.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a physician. I've been in practice for 40 years. And when I started taking this, I don't like medicines, and I probably have taken more people off medicine than I put on it. And so I looked at it, and it's pretty much a natural element. And there's no question in my mind, knowing a lot of patients, that people my age, 60 and over, do not eat right. And they certainly don't get the appropriate nutrients through the vegetables, fruits, and things like that. So I think that it supplies the building blocks that your body normally would use to heal itself. And if you don't get them, you don't heal right. So it's amazing. I mean, I'm doing what I did 2 years ago.
Start your journey to better health. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get free shipping. And don't forget to get 35% off your first preferred order by using discount code BALANCE.
Are you looking for free checking and free savings? Dave Ramsey here, telling you to go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank that's so big they lose the ability to treat you like a human being. At Palmetto Citizens, you're not just a number, you're a member. Join today at any of their 14 locations or at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
When it comes to firearms, ammunition, and accessories, some things are changing. Well, fortunately, some things haven't changed a bit. I'm talking all about Shooter's Choice in West Columbia. What has never and will never change is the customer service. Top notch with the staff that has decades of experience in the firearms industry. This staff actually hunts and shoots regularly. For over 30 years, Shooter's Choice has never lost that hometown feel and never felt like shopping at some big box store. What has changed? Well, technology. If you'd rather spend your money on firearms than gas, go online to shooterschoicesc.com and check out a great website that's easy to navigate 24/7. Be the first to get items as they are received at the store. Be the first to get that newest production model ordered before it even enters the retail store. Come pick it up at your convenience. Sign up for notifications of new products and special inventory. It's all at shooterschoicesc.com. So come on in and see the team at Shooter's Choice, 944 Sunset Boulevard, or visit online. Either way, you'll see what I'm talking about. Make your first choice, your best choice. Make it Shooter's Choice.
Hi, honey. Were you able to drop by Tree Pharmacy today to pick up Mom's medications?
Yes, she sure is on a lot of meds.
I know. That's why I go over so often, to help make sure she's taking them correctly.
Well, I have great news. The pharmacist at True Pharmacy said he can pre-pack her medications into individual doses.
Wow. Knowing she's taking the right meds at the right time will give me great peace of mind. But how much does it cost?
That's the even better part. It's free. Just another great service they offer at True Pharmacy. True Pharmacy, 2 locations, Charleston Highway in West Columbia and Divine Street downtown.
When you think about spring, good stuff springs to mind. You know, like spring break.
Woohoo!
A friend springing for drinks.
Thanks, dude.
A spring in your step. Spring fever.
Oh, behave.
And best of all, spring water dough pizza from the Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers.
Yeah, baby.
Experience the taste of spring with our amazing hand-tossed pies, spring fresh salads, and over 100 beers from around the world. Enjoy spring at the Mellow Mushroom in the Vista and on Sunset in Lexington.
Have you fallen behind on your taxes and might be facing IRS penalties? Have wage garnishments, levies, or liens? Have unfiled tax returns? You want someone local and qualified. Don't fall for those national spots. Meet with me, Teresa, at Capital City Professional Services, and let me help you through your tax maze. I can help with all your tax resolution issues. There are options to get you back on track. Call Capital City Professional Services, 400-8683. That's 400-8683.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk Media Network on a Monday night. In just a moment, John Kosas from the Fireflies will join us, talk about his team and their week at home before they get on the road. We'll also talk about the Carolina League and what is happening there. A couple of other quick notes, and then we'll get to John. Clemson infielder Max Wagner, ACC Player of the Week, and one of the 15 National Players of the Week by Collegiate Baseball. He hit .421, 6 home runs, a double, 10 RBIs, scored 8 runs, had 3 walks, struck out just once on the week. That's a heck of a week. Wofford outfielder Brennan Dorigi and right-hander Josh Vitas named the Southern Conference Players and Pitchers of the Week, respectively, for all the games. Hope I got the names right on that. Speaking of the Fireflies, they have the Carolina League's Player of the Week in Rivertown. Hit 600, 3 homers on the week, had 4 doubles. And tomorrow, Clemson Presbyterian, the pitching matchup, right-hander Colby Klepper for PC, right-hander Ricky Williams for Clemson. Are we ready for John? Let's go out to the ball yard.
Smoked to right field. Rodriguez watches it as it clears the fence. River down with a 2-run home run, and the Columbia Fireflies now lead it by a bunch.
All right, there you go. A little highlight from John from over the weekend. Good to have you with us once again, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Terrific. Beautiful time to be playing baseball. You guys had a nice long homestand. Now you're heading down to the beach. It's not a bad life. You were in Charleston for the better part of a week, back home. Now you get to go to Myrtle Beach for the better part of the week. I can think of worse things to be doing.
Oh, yeah, definitely harder lifestyles than to spend 2 weeks at different parts of the coast of South Carolina.
No question about it. What did you think of your team's play this past week? If I'm correct here, I think you lost the series with the guys from down east. But what did you think overall?
Yeah, we lost 4 of 6 games against Down East. I think overall a very positive sign for the Bats. Scored 10 or more runs in 2 of those games, scored 7 runs in a third. So the Bats started to come to life, which was the only legitimate concern for a little bit, was that the Bats were really going to struggle for the early part of this season. But the 8th inning has been tough for Columbia. The Fireflies have been outscored 27-0 in the 8th, and part of that just the bullpen struggling to finish games. Even in that walk-off winner on Sunday, so just yesterday, Columbia had a 12-5 lead, surrendered the lead, and then walked off in the 10th to win 13-12. So a couple of things that young guys need to tighten up on, but I think those are all experiential things, right? When you've got 19 and 20-year-olds pitching in front of crowds of 5,000 plus, a couple of nights every weekend, they're going to make some mistakes because they're still learning to pitch in front of that.
No, absolutely. Well, what about the week that the player of the week had for you guys? Definitely on fire at the plate, and Rivertown. And what'd you like about his week? Besides the fact that he was practically hitting everything on the nose with his bats.
I think what Rivertown did this week, and you already named the stat line, right? 600 average. He had an ISO over 800, which is just otherworldly. But I think the most poetic thing about what Rivertown did is he was the fourth outfielder coming into this series, and he put his name on the map. Town had played in 4 games for the first 9 games of the season, and he was 0 for 12. Then this week, his first AB against Down East, he hits out of the park. And so Tony Pena Jr. keeps him in for the next game, and he says, you know what, how about I hit another home run and a double? And he's just taking the right approach, drawing a lot of walks. I mean, he had 5 walks in 4 games in this series. So that's great for the on-base percentage, regardless of how well you're hitting it. And where this all comes kind of full circle is I spoke with him prior to one of the games during batting practice, and I said, man, what's happening? This power stroke isn't something that we saw at LSU Eunice. We saw it a little bit at Dallas Baptist. In fact, people who are big fans of the Gamecocks down the road might remember Rivertown hitting a home run against the Gamecocks for Dallas Baptist. But I asked him what he's doing. He said, it's just trying not to do too much. So many of us sometimes get caught up in pulling the ball a mile away and stuff. And he said, if you just focus on hitting line drives up the middle, sometimes great things happen. He said, all 3 of those home runs, I wasn't trying to hit out of the park. He said, I struck out trying to hit one out of the park, but those home runs, he was not trying to leave the yard for. He was just taking the right approach. And I think that's such a good lesson, no matter what level you're at, right? Just try and do what you can do, and good things will happen.
Sure.
John Kosis, voice of the Columbia Fireflies, with us for our Inside the Fireflies report each and every Monday here on Sports Talk. And John, we get so caught up, I guess, in football and basketball to some degree, and we forget baseball is such a long season. So if you fall 3 or 4 games back in the standings, it's not time to panic. But once again, I look at the Carolina League South, and I see Charleston sitting atop the division already at 10-5 after a terrific year last year. You guys at 6-9. When do you ever get a sense in terms of minor league baseball that you push the panic button after a couple of losses, or do you have to maintain that sort of even keel even early in the season and getting towards the tail end of the season as well?
So actually the beauty of minor league baseball is it's the split season, right? First half of the season, you don't have to push panic at all because the record resets 70 games through the year. And you get that second half champion that has a chance. And quite frankly, I've been in minor league baseball now for 5-6 years. And while I've been in minor league baseball, if I've learned anything, the first half champion almost never wins the championship at the end of the year because all those really good players tend to be up at higher levels. That's just what single A baseball is. So, I'm not concerned with actually Charleston and Myrtle Beach are tied atop the standings. And when Columbia visits Myrtle Beach, for a while in 2020, first-round draft pick Pete Crow Armstrong from the Mets, who's now been traded to the Cubs. That's why he's playing on the Pelicans. He had 10 RBI last week. I was excited to see him in a Fireflies uniform 2 years ago. Then the pandemic hit, and he kind of got waylaid a little bit. But, I'm not super concerned. I think there's a lot of raw talent on this team. They need to hone it in a bit. But I think when you have young guys like this and this type of raw talent, the first half of the season might be rough, but these are the experiences that are going to make this team good in half 2.
You guys, and I think this is the beauty of minor league baseball, you have the opportunity to have some outstanding promotional opportunities, and your owner actually guaranteed a win back on Saturday, saying that the fans, if they were in attendance and the Fireflies did not win, you get a free ticket for the next ball game. It didn't work out all that well, but in terms of promotional opportunities, what chances do you have for minor league baseball, and what things are upcoming for your team here in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so what was kind of awesome about that guaranteed win night, it was also Princess Night. So one of our bigger crowds of the year, and I think a lot of those people came out Sunday. I think we saw an increased Sunday crowd for that reason, that we had the guaranteed win. But this upcoming homestand, now we kind of got to fast forward, right? It's May 3rd through May 8th. On that Friday, the 6th, we're having Fireflies games. And you guys might have heard of that hit Netflix series Squid Games. So we're going to be playing something very similar to that. And it's going to be very interactive with the fans. Maybe not as high stakes as the Netflix series show, but we're going to have some fun at the park that's along those lines.
Have they been pleased thus far with attendance overall this early part of the year?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to judge the early weeknights because all the kids are still in school and stuff like that. But we are definitely rebounding from the pandemic this year, a lot better in terms of average attendance than last year. And looking at kind of what we're kind of pushing for ahead. I mean, at Princess Night, there were nearly 6,000 people at the ballpark. And last year, we never had more than 5,000. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen as the kids get out of school and weeknights start clearing up for families as they're looking for something to do and they see a Fireflies game on the schedule.
Last thing, we'll let you go. You think this team's going to hit at some point? Your leading hitter, Darryl Collins, 255 average right now through 13 games for him. You think this crowd at some point is going to get hot at the plate?
Rivertown showed us Rivertown, not a qualifying batter. I think he's like 2 at-bats short, which at this point of the season, right, is pennies on the dollar. But Rivertown's hitting 320 now after the outstanding week this week. And we're seeing Omar Hernandez hit very well. Candelario has drawn 8 walks in his last 4 games. So guys are getting on base. And when they're young like this, if you're getting on base and seeing the ball well, it's only a matter of time until you actually start hitting the ball and finding the gap and scoring runs. So they're doing everything fundamentally right. I think it's truthfully, and overmatched isn't the right word, but you have to think of it like that freshman at USC or Clemson that's playing against all the seniors in February and March. And then you got to look at how they progress to become like Michael Brandon isn't the average story of a freshman, right? Typically there's that little bit of adjustment at the start, and that's what we're hitting with a group that's far younger than the league average roster.
John, as always, great having you with us. Love talking about the Fireflies, Carolina League, a little minor league baseball here in South Carolina. Enjoy your time at Myrtle Beach, Lucky Dog, and we'll talk to you next Monday night, sir.
Sounds perfect. Thanks so much for having me on, fellas.
Thank you. Thanks, you very much. John Kosis. Yeah, he mentioned Rivertown. Actually, Rivertown was with that Dallas Baptist team. Didn't play the Gamecocks. They played in the Gamecocks Park. They played Virginia in the Super Regional. That's what I'm trying to spit out. Yeah, the Super Regional. Remember, the Gamecocks hosted the regional, and but Virginia was the number 1 seed. Right. And because Virginia won that regional, then they hosted the Super, and Dallas Baptist came in, and Dallas Baptist won the Super, right? Didn't they go to the World Series?
Wow,
that was 20. That was just
that was last year.
Can we not remember back to last year?
No, I tuned out
no,
as
I
soon
think
as
I'm
the
wrong.
Gamecocks were eliminated.
I think I'm wrong. I think, and now it's coming back to me. I think Virginia ended up winning that series.
But how cool. You want to talk about NIL, Phil, if you want to go into name, image, and likeness, how great a name would that be for Rivertown? I mean, that's tailor-made for name, image, and likeness, isn't it? Especially if you can swing the bat the way he has this past week.
Fantastic. All right, got to hit a break here on Sports Talk. Last one of the night. We'll come back and finish up with phone calls the rest of the way. We appreciate the phone calls that we've gotten so far tonight, and we'll continue with more. Tomorrow night, Kerry Tharp will be with us. Plenty to talk about with NASCAR.
Can't hardly wait for tomorrow. That's going to be fun.
And Wofford baseball coach Todd Interdonato will be with us. Hottest coach in the state, number 10 RPI, got Clemson on Wednesday. We'll hear from him tomorrow night on Sports Talk. Back in a moment.
The lady in black doesn't age. She just gets tougher. And NASCAR Throwback Weekend is when she likes to remind everyone just how they got here. Loud cars and louder colors, business up front and parties in the back. Over 70 years of history held together with one famous black stripe. Too tough to tame? I guess you'll have to find out. Darlington Throwback Weekend, May 6th through the 8th. Get your tickets at darlingtonraceway.com.
We're with Major Billy Downer of DNR. Of course, South Carolina is great for the hunters, Major. What do the hunters need to remember before they get out in the fields?
It seems like every other show we're talking about hunting safety of some sort. One thing we want hunters in this state to remember is always identify your target and what lies beyond it. Make sure before you pull that trigger that you know what you're looking at. Whether it's a turkey during turkey season or a deer during deer season, you know your identifying features of your game. You know what's beyond that target in case you miss.
Learn more about the great outdoors in South Carolina with Major Billy Downer on SC Wild here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Final minutes of Sports Talk on this Monday night. Updates of Major League Baseball very quickly. Top of the 6th, Brewers lead the Giants 1-0. Bottom of 3, Rockies 2, Phillies 1. Red Sox, Blue Jays scoreless in the 4th. Mets and Cardinals scoreless top of the 1st. Astros, Rangers about to get underway. And let's see. Do we have any college? Sometimes you have some carryover college baseball, but we don't. There's no college baseball tonight to speak of. USC is off all week, exam week over at USC. And Clemson has 2 games this week. They got PC tomorrow night and Wofford on Wednesday, and then they go to Louisville. So another 5-game week for the Tigers that could make or break their season as things have been playing out for them. All right, now back to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. And we go next to where, sir? Oh, Hank?
Yeah,
did Hank come back?
He did. He wanted to finish his point earlier.
Okay.
We lost the connection with him.
All right, Hank, sorry about that. Got to get you better cell service. Welcome back in, sir. Welcome back in.
Right. There's no problem, Phil. Yeah, and I want to say I wouldn't really criticizing the Clemson Donuts because I know a good bit of them, and I know they will do their part. I just think that the coaches that agree to play ball are going to have guys looking at them, and I don't think it's be so much of a bidding war as much as them that agree to play ball. But Coroner, one thing you can say, I did want to say about first when Pat, mentioned the thing about the players being left in the portal, is that the NCAA kind of came back and pushed on that because it pushed back a little bit on that article because what has happened is players who went in the portal and went to JUCO and then went on to another school, a lot of them were left still in the portal. Like if you looked in the portal, Jared Garantano was still in the portal, but he played for Washington State last year. So there's a number of players that if there's no direct contact from the school to say now they're out of the portal, they weren't deleted. So that skewed some of those numbers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But one thing I'll say about your NIL last, and I'll get off so you can close the show, is that, Corn, you must say, with NIL, we have a lot more high-quality players coming back to these basketball teams. So we start the season, people actually will know some of these, a number of these top teams with the players coming back.
They'll just be on different teams. They'll just be here today, gone tomorrow. That's all.
No, he's talking about name, image, and likeness, not the transfer portal. And I think Hank's right.
Well, but I'm saying, but a lot of them are transferring.
Oscar Tshiebwe is a great example.
Yeah, but I mean, aren't a lot of them transferring for better? I get that. I understand what you're saying. Aren't some of them transferring for better NIL opportunities?
No, a lot of them are staying instead of going pro or going overseas or going to the G League.
I get that. Yeah, I guess that's a positive.
Look at North Carolina, 4 or 5 stars.
But let me just ask you this question before we leave, Hank. And you're a smart guy. I mean, you've got doctor on your Twitter handle. I'm assuming that you are an educated fellow. I mean, where's education in all this anymore?
That's the problem.
Where's the academic side of this anymore for everybody? For you, for me, for them. Where is it?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't mind the players leaving once to go to somewhere else if they're unhappy and they're getting that one time. Where I get bothered by it is the player that plays at 3 different colleges in 3 different years, because those players, I can guarantee you, are not coming out with a degree, not the undergrad.
No. Thank you, Hank. Thank you, sir. Great here.
That's not true.
And
That's not true at all.
Hank's laughing as he hangs. He does that all the time. He laughs at us every time he makes points and then hangs up. What you got?
Eric Stevenson's going to have a degree in interstate commerce. There's, I promise you, the dude's working like 3 or 4 colleges.
Well, he went from Wichita to Washington to South Carolina to West Virginia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude's going to have an interstate commerce degree.
He'll be a tour guide. He'll be a he's going to run a travel agency when he's
U.S. history is going to be his thing. He should know.
I just hope he finds happiness. He found happiness with Frank Martin, and then he should have transferred to UMass, but he got the next best thing, and he got Bob Huggins, which is, Frank Martin is Bob Huggins light, I would say, right? Or is it the other way around?
And Greg Marshall is Frank Martin heavy, right?
I don't know.
I mean, Frank was never accused of some of the things that Greg Marshall has been accused of.
But Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, in games on the court, he never berated his players, and to the extent that Frank Martin would berate a player and cuss him out and break him down on a court. Now, maybe behind the scenes, Marshall was.
Yeah, he'd already done that before.
According to the allegations.
Sure.
All right, let's hit another call. We go to our buddy Sam in Charleston. Sam, welcome in. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Hope you guys doing well. And I want you to apologize, first of all. I was out of town last week to see my sister, and I'm really sorry.
Well, listen, we forgive you.
Hey, I want you to talk about this week and next week. I was up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Sorry.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you were in Chapel Hill. I'm sorry you had to go to Chapel Hill.
Gordon, come on, buddy. Hey, so I want Pat and you to talk about this week and next week. I was up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina this past week, and I got some huge breaking news I wanted to tell you. Leaky Black is coming back, if you know that. That's number one. Number two, I think Manic is a senior, if I'm correctly right. And third, I want to know if at North Carolina spring game for football. And secondly, you guys see about our new signee at the College of Charleston for basketball season?
Well, you got a couple of new ones. Ones. Yeah. Hey, at the North Carolina spring game, who are you pulling for?
Well, actually, I was up there for my sister's wedding in person this past week. But I went and stopped by the student stores up there, and I saw Herbert Davis.
Did you talk to him?
I talked to him briefly. I got to tell you, I am so proud of him for his first career coach this year. And I got to tell you, I really want to work with him.
Well, maybe he'll hire you.
Well, if Pat Kelsey tell me to, come on now.
Well, I mean, put in an application. Let him know you want to go to work for him.
Well, the thing is
but what would the Cougars do without you?
Well, I think I'm going to make this real short, but I really do think you guys need to talk about this week or next week. But I do really think I spoke to my players today about who's coming back, who's not. We lost 4 seniors this year, and I want to know if we have a couple of freshmen and we have freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors coming in next year, and I want to know if what is your instincts you and Pat to discuss this week is that. Do you think we have a block party next year? Because I'm here to party.
You're here to party?
A block party.
All right. Thank you for the phone call. Sam's ready to partay.
I'm disappointed in Sam. I thought he was die-hard Cougar. I had no idea he had a little
Tar
North
Heel?
Carolina blood in him. Yeah.
Did he say he was at a
Disappointed.
wedding? He went up there for a wedding? Did he say his sister? I thought did he say
I
his
believe
sister?
he's told us in the past that his sister goes there.
Yeah.
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 And Brady Manick was a graduate transfer, so I think
Yeah.
he's one of the guys, the only guy that's not coming back for them next
No,
year.
they'll be loaded next year. They'll be
No,
loaded.
they're, like I said, I think they're the preseason favorites to win it all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Let's see. I think that's going to do it. Chris, any final thoughts in that fertile mind of yours?
No, outside of the standpoint, your boys are up 4 late second quarter.
See, I didn't even want to talk about
Nets.
that. I didn't want to talk about that.
I need to squeeze in a little NBA mess playoffs.
I'll be focused on that. I'll be focused on that as soon as I get in the car. NFL draft coming up this week. We'll do more on
That will
that.
be fun.
Yawn. Well, except
What
when
are the
Packers
Panthers
are
going to
picking.
do with that 6th pick? That's
Trade
going to be
down,
critically
trade down.
important. Yeah, please.
Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.